We have to mention the private jet, of course, because you you like to say you're this, or you like to present yourself as this.
Here goes that Huckleberry Finn analogy, yeah, right.
So why the private jet? That's the one indefensible thing.
Because it makes my life better. I mean, if I thought a different house would make my life better, I'd probably live in a different house. But the private jet really does make my life a lot better. I do have to travel around quite a bit, and money does that for me. It doesn't make me a better athlete. It doesn't make me handsomer. It doesn't make me a better dancer. But it does make life a lot easier for me if I have a jet, and so I use money for that. And I'd be crazy if I didn't.
Do you think, looking at the wealthy people, far less wealthy than you, of course, do you think they have the right approach to money? I mean, because I wonder whether what you teach us about money is not how to make it, but is how really to value it.
Well, basically most of the rich people in the United States, and probably the UK too, I mean, they would not have done quite as well if they'd been in Bangladesh or someplace like that. I mean, they may think they did it all by themselves, but the society has done an awfully lot for them. And if you get the chance to live very rich in the society, you really ought to, in my view, you ought to have a taxation system, but you also ought to have a personal value system where you believe that a lot of that ought to go back to the people that got the short straws in life. I mean, when I was born, I was wired in a certain way. It works wonderfully in a big capitalist society. It wouldn't work so well if I'd been someplace where they devalued physical, ability or whatever it may be. But I get paid off enormously. No great credit to me. I mean, I just was lucky at birth, and it's nice to give me a fair amount of the benefits from that. But I shouldn't delude myself into thinking I'm some superior individual because of that. I mean, and in the end, a market system allows me to get this enormous disproportionate amount of the country's resources into my hands. One way or another, a fair amount should get back to society.
But you're not a socialist. I mean, you're. What's the right approach then to the market? Because people would say, is he telling us we should have higher taxes on people like him? Or, I mean, a more European way? What is your message? Or are you just saying the very wealthy themselves, if they're decent people, should be?
I think both. I think both. But I don't think the society ought to count entirely on the goodwill of the rich to decide the proportions that go back. So, no, I believe in a very progressive tax on income. I think that if I'm in a society that has $47,000 of GDP per person, which is a lot, but I end up with these enormous amounts of claim checks. And like I say, I was born that way. Stick me down some other place. As my friend Bill Gates says, he says, if I'd been born some different place or some different time, I'd have been some animal's lunch. I've been in the right place at the right time. And I'm lucky, and I think that a fair amount of that luck should be shared with others.